myself out.
I am afraid of...
I'm terrified and paralyzed by...
I am deathly afraid of...
Welcome to the Sum of All Fears podcast with your host, me, Ryan Perrio. Welcome to the Sum of All Fears podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Perrio. As we get closer to Christmas, hope you guys have a happy holidays. This week's episode, my guest is Mark Jacob Halberg, otherwise known as the Bushido Geek from the Fandom Effect podcast. Mark's podcast talks about mostly nerd culture and things that you can geek out and be a fan of, and he just explores those various fandoms. It's a great listen. I just listened to his latest episode with Bruce Valanche. Check him out on all podcasting platforms. Give it a listen. He's really fascinating. We talk about my episode. We talk about the Bushido parenting and his fear of having his MMA or other, working out lifestyle injuring him to the point that he can't do the things he wants to do as a dad. It's a really interesting episode, so let's get into it with Mark Jacob Halberg. All right, we're here with Mark Jacob Halberg, otherwise known as the Bushido Geek, and his podcast, The Fandom Effect, that I've actually been listening to recently and become a fan of. How you doing, Mark?
Hey, I appreciate that. I'm doing pretty good. It's just one of those long days.
Yeah, you ran down your schedule. You want to, you can talk about it on here as well. It may already be in the works by the time you may be already moved on to a daily radio show by the time this launches.
Yeah. I won't take up too much, but yeah, it was just like I did my normal, day job, and then got off of work, and then jumped to setting off some podcasting stuff for editing, and then went from there to filling out my script for the radio stuff on Saturday, and kind of jotting down what I need to do before Saturday before I go live. So so if anyone listening, you can catch the Fandom Effect on Redline Radio LLC is the Facebook page. You can catch me there. I'm saying Saturday, but by the time I think you'll hear this, I'll be on Sundays, so you can just catch me on Sundays.
And that's amazing. I can't imagine doing a radio, because I feel like that's even more prep, because you have to all of a sudden prep for contingencies of, as it comes up, something changing.
Yeah, so it's like they have an app, and then it's like their Facebook page. It goes live on their Facebook page, and they have it synced up, and then they have the app and stuff through that as well. So it's still a smaller one, but it's a good stepping stone that I can use this and then launch into bigger stuff. But yeah, I got lucky. I interviewed a guy for a podcast, and he, after we were done, he was just hey, I love the message you're trying to spread with showcasing the nerdier community and just trying to bring entertainment to it. And then I go over the news and stuff. He was like, I love your style. He was like, you know how to run stuff. He was like, I've been made producer of this online radio station because a lot of shows dropped out. Do you want a time slot? And then so that's just been that's been the last couple weeks, is just getting that all set up and working with the main guy. So it's been crazy.
So I've got to ask, because when I listen to your podcast, how did you get the name the Bushido Geek?
So it's kind of, I guess, a self-made moniker, but based on things that I've done. So obviously, geek being, I've been involved in cosplay, anime, comic books, and video games for 25 years now. So, that kind of came to it itself. And for Bushido, I'm injured right now, but I did various different MMA styles for 5 years. So I did boxing, Brazilian, Japanese jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai kickboxing, Rufus-Sport kickboxing. So if you're listening, you're a fan of the USC, the Pettis brothers train under Rufus-Sport. So that's where I trained out of when I moved to Wisconsin, just for people listening to make the connections. But when I was training out of Michigan, the gym I was in, I did everything, but it was a very old school boxing mentality, like the Rocky movies. The teachers were all very what are you doing? You can't sit down. Punch more. Go until you puke. I remember trainings where I puked during training, and everything was very you show respect. Don't speak unless spoken to during class. Bow when you enter a room, bow when you leave the room. everything they did was based on Bushido, and Bushido stands for Way of the Samurai. So there's like a Bushido code. And, like if you watch like Last Samurai, that's not a historically accurate movie, but when he mentions this stuff, the samurai means like to serve, and they follow this code, and like they do the same things. That part is true, and that's the mentality the gym had. And so I've always stuck with that mentality of following the Bushido code into modern, I guess, day society. So then, like when I was trying to think of the moniker of what this podcast was going to mean to me, that kind of just fits who I am. It fits both aspects of what my life is.
Yeah, and I've actually read Bushido Solo Japan, so that's where I saw Bushido. I was, interesting. If you haven't read that book, it's super fascinating.
No, I don't think I've read that specific one.
It talks about like society and like how the merchant was like the lowest class in the Bushido, and if they got power, and it just basically talked about how everything would be economy driven and financially, and it kind of paints the blueprint of what we're going through financially today. Like everything financially is controlled by merchants, and so the rich people are all doing things to make money instead of, which was the Bushido, which was to serve, and each class had its own entity. It was super fascinating.
Yeah, I like that. That sounds really interesting.
And so your podcast is called The Fandom Effect, where you interview people of, I guess, different genres of things going on and get into their space, if you will. Like I listened to your one about the ghost hunters, and it was just you talking to the ladies, the ghost hunting sisters.
Yeah. Paranormal sisters is the team.
Yes, that was super fascinating to me. Is that you just, even though you may not be a ghost hunter now, show me how ghost hunting works, and then let me kind of get into your space.
Yeah, it's been fun. I'm introducing pretty soon a new secondary episode, talk about like the specific news, but yeah, that's what I go with when I'm interviewing people, is just who's someone that's interesting, that is done different things that people can not only get entertainment out of, but at the same time learn something from, because that's kind of anything I've learned from doing podcasting for a while, or things that people like enjoy, or just talking to friends that are nerdy, is that sometimes a lot of people are just like, yeah, I just wish I knew more about this and could just listen to stuff without having to like research it. Because I mean, yes, Google exists for everything, but sometimes you just are sick of Googling everything.
But Google doesn't have the cool stories of sitting in a Revolutionary War bunker and in the middle of the night waiting for something to happen.
Yeah, that one creeped me out. I was like, I'm not a huge, believer in that side of stuff, but even at that, I'm like, I just wouldn't want to sit in a creepy old Civil War abandoned building at 2 a.m.
Exactly. I interviewed a guy who's afraid of haunted houses, and he's like the cartoonish ones he's afraid of. Like he gets amped up to go to the haunted house, and it freaks him out. But he's like, I couldn't handle doing a real one. He's like, I'm already alone with my thoughts already. Why would I want to go somewhere else scary and be alone with my thoughts there when I don't even want to be alone with my thoughts at home?
I hate haunted houses because I never went with like friends. I always went with a girlfriend or my sister, or like, various people. Like there's always females in the group, and so they'd always like shove me forward, walk ahead, and then the guys would see that, so they would jump out after I walked ahead to like then scare the people behind me. So I would just hear screaming. So it's after like 4 or 5 times, it just got ruined for life, because I'm just like walking through a haunted house and no one's trying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you're just being bullied. I feel, to me, haunted houses is bullying. Like they just get right up. It's almost UFC like. Like it's literally like that chest bump at USC.
Oh yeah.
When they're doing the weigh-in. That's what it feels like when they try to scare you. Like they're just basically, it's like, can you like scare me at a distance or something? Do you have to be like right in my face? I don't understand. I can still be scared 4 feet away. You don't have to make me uncomfortable and scared at the same time.
Yeah. Did you ever hear about that one that I don't know exactly what state it's in, but the one where you have to sign a waiver? It's like a 10-page waiver to get in, and you have to give them permission to like legit torture you, and like, yeah, there's like, it's some haunted house. It's in the United States. I just can't remember which state, and it's like a humongous. You have to like not only sign the huge waiver, you have to give them a document or something saying that you've taken a recent psych eval and that you're low risk for like essentially going insane because of this haunted house, because they waterboard people, not to kill you, but like they do all these crazy torture things, and like people sign up for it.
Who wants that kind of fear? Like, who wants to be scared that if you need to, who passes a psych eval for that? If you want to get that done, I think you're failing the psych eval. I think that's secondary.
Yeah, there's no way I could do that. No way.
So speaking of fear, that's what my podcast is about. Since we do a little bit about you, get people to know you, and since you're a recent father, your fear is that you're afraid of not being there, which is a legitimate fear for every parent. Like, it's that. And did that start like when you were told you were going to be a father, or was it a little bit later, like when you actually were holding it in your arms, that fear started?
It was like, I mean, it was probably always in the back of my head, but I didn't really realize it until like the reason why I'm injured right now. Like, I have sharp pains in my neck, and I'm pretty sure it's like a partially torn rotator cuff, but it wasn't until that injury happened when I like freaked out, because I'd gone back to training because I was recovering from another injury. I had like just got on a long trend. I like blew out my calf muscle, which, by the way, is the weirdest feeling in the world. It feels like your legs implode. It just feels like the back of your leg just pops. Like it's really weird. And then I dislocated a rib, and then I finally was coming back from like 2 months, and I was trapped in a triangle choke. And I should have just popped out, but I knew I could get out, so I like forced myself to get out, and I felt something pop in my neck, and it took me like 4 days until I could turn my neck. Like, now I have full range of motion. I just kind of have a sharp pain every once in a while, but for like 4 days I could not turn my head. Like, I couldn't do anything, and I like freaked out. I was like, oh shit, like what happens if this is it? Like, this is it. Now I can't turn my neck anymore. So all those thoughts kind of start floating through your head, like, I won't be able to teach him how to play baseball or ride a bike or play with him. I'm just going to literally have to just sit there every day and not move because I can't move my neck.
Wow. And I've never had kids, mainly. It's not my choice. It was choice of women that found me not attractive. And so I can't imagine like the responsibility, because I've dated some women with kids, and there are, certain things that you get used to, and you get used to not having as much alone time as you did. You get used to having to do stuff for your children, even though you're tired. If your kid's hungry, you're gonna make them something to eat.
Oh yeah.
And so you start to do that, and then the kid outgrows it, and then you stop having to do that, and so now you get all these thoughts of, he's not gonna need me anymore, or he's gonna. So I get like the steamrolling thoughts of as soon as it's not just how does this affect me, how does this affect this person that wants to hang out with me every moment of the day, except when he's on the iPad.
Yeah, and there's still something I got to be careful with. He likes to ride on my shoulders a lot, and I can really only do it for like 10 or 15 minutes before my neck just starts to get super sore and I have to put him down. Which is fine. I mean, it's also because of the fact that he's way bigger than the average, he turns 3 next month, but the average 3-year-old, he's 38 pounds or 39 pounds or something. He's like way bigger, so that probably doesn't help. But yeah, it's just, I just kind of started like freaking out about it. And then, I mean, still stuff kind of, every once in a while like pops into your head, because I want to go back once I can figure out what's wrong with me. And get back to the gym. It's like you run that risk of like everything you do starts running the risk. Where's the risk reward for injury or something potential down the road? Even with like job stuff, I had been in sales for a long time, and then I was in that when he was born, but I was like so stressed out every day. I was coming home angry all the time and short temper with him and like all that stuff. And so like I quit and I took a lower paying job that is just like super relaxing. So I don't. And that was like another fear, was like, if I kept in this style of job, I was like, I'm gonna alienate my kid.
You're bringing home with you, basically.
Yeah, which is what I dealt with growing up, and saw myself doing the same thing, and was like, nope, I can't. So I just quit my job and I took a huge pay cut.
But good on you.
The happiness in the long run.
But good on you for realizing that pattern and breaking it, rather than, well, I've got to do this. I've got to I've got to make such and such, or because sometimes people, well, this is just the world I'm in. So good on you for making those changes. And I get the whole jiu-jitsu thing. I don't do it myself because I'm all of 5'7" and 170 pounds. But I one of a comic friends here does jiu-jitsu, and he talks about, like, he used to work in the oil field and he did martial arts, and his buddy got him into it. And he's like, 5 years ago, and he just got his blue belt, and he's like, I wouldn't think of doing it. And he did Kempo and all these other karais. And it's like, which do you like better? He's like, jiu-jitsu, hands down, because it's such a chess game. He's like, the idea that it's a chess game, that you kind of, you play the other person's tendencies, that they've shown you this and this. So, and so he loves that strategy play of, okay, he's got his feet and he's going to come at me from the side. So if he comes at me from the side, then I know to do this.
Yeah.
That's where he gets it. And so I get the whole idea of, it's kind of a relaxing, but also mentally, it kind of helps you focus.
Yeah.
It's like a physical brain teaser, if you will.
Yeah, and that's kind of one of the reasons I want to go back, if I can figure out what the hell's wrong. Like you said, he's pretty much right. It's I was not at that high of a level just because I like switched. Mm-hmm. It's very hard. Most schools, like, if you come in saying, like, hey, I was a red belt in Muay Thai kickboxing when I left Michigan to come here. So when I told them that, they were like, well, we're going to put you at yellow, orange, and we'll see where you're at, because theirs was like, it's a different style of kickboxing. It's a different school. But with jiu-jitsu, unless they've heard of the school, it's like a national play, something where like a UFC fighter or Bellator or somebody like that comes from, where they can, like, obviously literally just pick up the phone and call and be like, is this guy really, like a blue belt in jiu-jitsu? That kind of thing. Did you do anything there? I was like, yeah, I did like a year of MMA and Brazilian or in Japanese jiu-jitsu. And they were like, oh, well, we do Brazilian jiu-jitsu and we've never seen you roll, so you're white belt, bottom white belt. We can't run the risk of having you work with someone higher and then your style's totally different.
You would think they give you some sort of certificate or something that you could take, or like a course credit, like you could transfer like your jiu-jitsu college credits. Yeah,
I wish. I have belts. I was like, I had sashes for Muay Thai, but for the school I was at in Michigan, like, they really didn't do jiu-jitsu. When I was there, like, they had jiu-jitsu testing, but it was always at like Wednesday at 10 p.m. And I can never make that. There's no way that will ever work. So I was like, I just kept doing stuff, but you meet interesting people. Like, I was on both sides of the fence. I went from being the guy who sat on the chair and joined to the guy in the room talking to other people joining. And you got to scare people away sometimes, because sometimes you get the feeling of you're doing this because you watch the UFC, and that's not a good reason.
Yeah, it's not a quick fix. And as a comic, I totally get that. That's how I feel sometimes with everything, is there's always these people that are just trying to jump on because, oh, you can make money at this? I know how to make money at this. How do we make money at this? Like, comedy, they do it.
Yeah.
When I'm in stand-up, there will always be new guys. So how many years before in doing comedy before you start getting paid to do this? It's like, well, it's not like a union job where you get credit for time served. It's just sometimes some people find themselves about 6 months into doing comedy. Other people, it takes 4 to 5 years before they find their voice.
Yeah.
It's just, you have to love what you're doing. I always tell people, take the first year of whatever you're doing and learn how to love what you're doing, because if you don't love it after a year, you're probably gonna not like doing it in year 2 and 3.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So I would like to know, do you feel like you resonate now more with the minivan dad now that you are a dad?
So funny story on that. Well, I guess, I don't know, you're an actual professional comedian, so I don't know how funny it is to you, but when the older car that I used to have, when it came time to, like, we have a kid, my car, let's just say, didn't have the ability to have a car seat in it. My wife was just like, all right, well, we're time to get a new car, and I really like the Mazda CX-5, and I was like, I don't know, I kind of wanted to get like a Mazda 6, because, it's still a 4-door, and we can fit a car seat in it, and it's just a smaller car, and I like smaller cars. So fast forward, I now have a Mazda CX-5, and when the time came for my wife to get a new car, she was like, yeah, minivan, I'm getting a minivan. So now I have an SUV and a minivan, so I'm fully in that minivan dad.
I'm only in a sedan because of the gas mileage it gets. Like, I have a Nissan Altima from 2016, and it gets 600 miles to a tank of gas. And so as a comic, when you're driving around, I think it's just amazing for me to be able to just fill up, like maybe drive 600 miles and then finally fill up.
Yeah.
I totally get the sport utility because it's so easy to get stuff in and out of. It's like, oh, I don't have to bend over to put groceries in.
Yeah. Yeah, that one's easier. And she loves the minivan because it's got like it's from like 2006, but it's got like the opening trunk and there's a smaller TV in there. And I was like, Jesus, times have certainly changed from minivans and stuff back when I was a kid.
I grew up in the ages of regular vans, and so I'm 43. So I've grown up with like real vans and seen like the minivan. Now it opens up like you're a roadie taking your kid to some concert because it opens up, like the doors open up.
Yeah.
You have to bring out all this equipment so your kid stays entertained while you're visiting your family. Like when it's a baby, that's what it feels like. It feels like you're a roadie.
Yeah.
This little playpen looking thing where they lay on it, and then you have like this Johnny jump up thing that sits in the door jamb, and they bounce on that. You have like 6 things, and it's just to visit your folks for like an hour and a half, and then you got to pack it all up, put it all back in the van.
Yeah, I mean it's weird. You like that there. I mean, even when we do like cars and stuff, even there's that parenting fear of like road trips. Like, I mean, not obviously now with everything going on is a different fear, but even when things were perceivably normal, we discovered pretty quick that our kid happens to get car sick. So a TV in the car is nice, but unusable because within 30 minutes, he's going to throw up.
So he gets motion sickness just watching the TV from the car. Is it because he bounces around or?
Yeah, because he's forward facing now, so like the forward facing, like he sees more of like what's going on outside, and he's more upright. So like watching the TV as he's like in the car gives him like that weird motion sickness.
I never even thought of that because I had I didn't have TV in the car, and so I got motion sickness just from like either trying to read in a car.
It depends on what it is. I do if I'm reading like a book. It's weird. If I'm reading like a book, I'll get queasy, like I'll start to feel kind of queasy, but if I'm reading like a comic, I don't know if it's because it has like pictures and not as much words, but for some reason I can read a comic and be A-okay, or I can watch something on my phone, or I can play on like my Switch and I'm A-okay. But if I'm reading a straight book, for some reason that's what sets it off.
So since you do cosplay, do you cosplay your son up? Like when you go, do you get your son all cosplayed out?
So I stopped about a year ago because of money, but me and my wife have talked about like when he gets older, taking him to like smaller ones because he has some people that he's just super huge fans of, like Captain America and Iron Man and Gambit, and like people from like animes that I'm watching with him. And so we've talked about when he gets a little bit older, because he's at that point now where like if we put anything on him, even if it's something he loves, and he's like Halloween's different, he's getting candy, so he'll wear a costume for 2 hours or whatever. But now it'd be like we get like 30 minutes and he'd be like, yeah, no, I'm bored, I'm taking this off, let's go run around. He's too crazy right now.
So unless there's a hero that's just wears no pants.
Yeah. Well, I guess technically he could do Captain Underpants, which is like an older book. And
you say so Gambit is one of his,
mainly because of me, because Gambit's one of my favorites, and so I bought him like a Gambit action figure, and then like I showed him a couple episodes of the early X-Men show from the early 90s because it's on Disney Plus, and they have that like super cool intro where like Gambit and all that stuff are in there, and like he only made it to like a couple episodes, but I kept pointing out who Gambit is. And so he has a voice, so he knows who Gambit is.
Doing the dad thing. Making sure he knows which superheroes to support.
Yeah, like you like this guy, right? Like, well, yeah, but I like Iron Man too. Well, let's focus on Iron Man. Let's focus on these other guys.
So, are you proud of his comic book choices, or is there some that you're like, what about this guy?
I mean, he likes Superman, which I'm not a fan of.
So you're Marvel.
Because I like both. I just don't like Superman just because they made him way too overpowered, so it ruins a lot of stuff. But I do buy him some comics, so like I take every time I go to the comic store to pick up my pull list, I always have him pick out, because there's stuff he can see, the stuff that like the newer issues and stuff is always in like shelves, so you can see what has come out recently in the last 2 weeks. So I always let him pick out something just to kind of help reinforce the stuff he's been a fan of, which is one of the things I talk about in my podcast, is just to if you like to help try to reinforce the fandoms for the new generation because, like I think we were talking kind of off the air, I had heard stories from friends that didn't have supportive parents or didn't really have the friends that were into things. And my parents were very supportive, but they had no idea what anything was. And, it took me until high school to really have friends that were like nerdy, and not just like, well, I'm nerdy, but I, and by that, I mean, I play Call of Duty, 3 times a week. Like, there's a difference between that and then, like, friends who were like, no, I go to conventions or I have 9 boxes of comic books. And so even if it's stuff that I'm not a huge fan of, he loves Power Rangers, and I grew up on the original, so I'm a huge fan of the original, and now there's 30 of them. And there's some that are actually pretty good that they've made recently, and there's some that are terrible, and I, like, cannot stand watching them. But, it's you kind of just, you got to reinforce those fandoms when they're young, because I've seen the effects of what happens if you don't have
a support
people or that support system to like say that it's okay to be into this thing.
People are going to want to change you because they don't feel good about themselves. So it'll start with oh, I don't like this, I think it's too childish, or it'll be something like that. It'll just be little things, and then it snowballs from there. So just, even if you like something, just stick up for it. Don't let them peer pressure you into saying, I don't like it too, because you want their approval.
Yeah.
And I just say, play to your strengths. If you're good at art, keep drawing. Even if they tell you it doesn't look good, just keep doing it because it's something you enjoy. And as you get older, you'll definitely want to do more things you enjoy. And when you do find them again, because if you're lucky enough to rediscover them, you're like, why didn't I keep doing this whole time? This is great.
Yeah.
So I appreciate this. And what are you doing to kind of prevent yourself, like as a dad, to just try to take those safety precautions, even though you are going to go back to MMA? Do you see yourself maybe taking it easier in the jiu-jitsu?
Yeah. So like, yeah, it's like, because you still have like, I mean, I still, like I said, like every time I put him on my shoulder and my neck hurts, or, I'm trying to go for a run, and even like a mile run, I can feel my shoulder blades just getting super tight because of whatever's going on. And it's just like that constant every day of like, what, if I push it, how hard, where's the risk of like, becoming paralyzed, like obviously is the fear. So ideally, like in a perfect world, if I can get healthy and just do kickboxing for a while and see how my body holds up, like boxing and kickboxing, and just not do the sparring I was doing, because that was part of the thing too, is like, I was training 5 days a week, sometimes like 6-7 hours at a time, but I was also doing the sparring, so I was doing crazy, all the sparrings I could, and like pushing myself. I mean, I was getting in really good shape, but I mean, now I'm feeling the effects of 5 years of getting hurt, but then like never going to the doctor because it was like, well, I can't afford the medical bill because, without getting political, can't afford the healthcare bill. So it was just, all right, never go to the doctor, and I'm sure I'll heal up.
Yeah.
And this is the first time where I've not healed up, but now I'm feeling the effects of just 5 years of minor concussions and small tears here and small tears there. And
see, that's one of my fears too, is like loss of mobility, because watching my grandparents get older, I felt like that was the precursor to the bad, is when they stop being able to move. And that's my big fear, is like, oh, what if I just am sitting to the point where I can't get up and walk a mile, or I can't bend down to pick something up?
Yeah.
So I totally feel that loss of mobility.
Yeah. And that's why, like, eventually I'm just going to suck it up and just, like, go and get an MRI done just to see, like, is it... Because it hasn't gotten any worse or better in 2 years. So I'm, like, riding that line of, like, eventually you just got to suck it up. And that's the fear, is the fear holds you back. Not only because you don't want to get a giant bill you can't afford, but at the same time, you're like, what if I go and they tell me, like, well, it's not bad, but, you have a tear, whatever's between your spine and your neck and that general area.
Or it's something they can't fix.
Yeah, where they're like, it'll never get any worse, but it's just always going to hurt. Or, hey, we have to do, it's like it's a minor surgery, but, you're not going to be able to move your neck for 4 weeks. And yeah, so it's like that. And for me, like, it's not only like the fear for like not being able to do anything with him when he's just growing up, but then getting older, like when he's older and I'm, well into the late age, like my grandmother has dementia right now, and it hasn't set in like super bad, but it's obviously with that disease, it just gets worse and worse and worse. And so like I've realized that too, is, man, not only do I not want to lose mobility, but like not being able to remember anything. having the light, like having the kid, or future kids, and like building all that up, and then like all of a sudden one day, you're in your 70s and 80s and you don't remember your own kid. Like that would kill me. I mean, I guess I wouldn't know, but still.
That's a scary thing as well, and it's one of those things where you just hope for the best in that situation and enjoy the time you have is what I've always tried to do. It's like you can't make everything a success. You just got to enjoy what you do. Otherwise, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like what's school gonna be for kids going forward? By the time your kid's school age, what are schools gonna look like?
It better be something in person, because if his schooling education comes down to my knowledge, he is screwed.
He's gonna get an A in Muay Thai.
Like, yeah, I'm a huge history buff. Like, I've always been really into history, so he'll do great in that. Like grammar, writing, math, science. So 5 out of the 6 of what you would normally do, he's not going to me for.
That's when you look at your wife and you're like, your turn.
Yeah,
tag in like a tag team.
Luckily, my wife is way better at all those other things than I am. So she'll do like 90% of his schoolwork because I don't know how, and then I can do the other 10%. I mean, when it's 2 plus 2, I'll be fine. But as soon as he starts coming home to me when he's in, I don't know what grade it is now, but 5th or 6th grade, when he's like, all right, Dad, I need help with math. It's 4x minus 2. I'm like, all right, yeah. So this is the part where I officially cannot help you anymore.
See, Dad had 5 X's, so he doesn't know this one. 4x means that I was in a bad place at that time of relationship before I met your mom.
Yeah.
That's how I would do math with my kid. I'd be like, 3x? Okay, we'll see.
Yeah, 3x.
I was 23, and this girl worked in a haunted house, and we met on an online dating. No, Dad, that's not the math problem. What's been your best dad moment with your kid so far?
Oof, man, that's a tough one, and I'm not the normal cliche answer of like every day is a precious, because it's not. Every day is not a precious moment. There are plenty of days that are not. I think it's different days. Sometimes it's like when he was younger, I was the only one who could put him to sleep because I had like a certain way of holding him that no one else could figure out. Even if like you held him, you were like, I'm doing the exact same thing you're doing. For some reason, like when he was growing up, 5, like 3 months to 7, 8 months. So it's moments like that, like, as tiring as it is, I have memories of being awake at 3 a.m. when he would wake up for a bottle, and he'd eat the bottle and he wouldn't want to go back to sleep. So I'm in, the other room at 3 a.m. holding him, trying to like just talk to him and calm him down. To then like, stuff like today, like where he's older and he's super into Spider-Man and he wants me to like hold him like an airplane, and as he pretends to shoot spider webs around the house and carry himself to stuff. So yeah, I don't know if there's like a specific moment that I can be like, oh, that moment is my my all-time favorite, but I'd say there's definitely like themes of moments, if that makes sense.
I think so, because I would say like they probably just compound, like every day or every moment, like all of a sudden kind of latches on almost like a Legos of.
Yeah, I don't know. Like advice, as weird as it sounds, I would give to people listening that are newer parents is after like they're 1 or 2 and you somehow take a vacation for like a week, just somehow try to get like vacation time, because it's really weird. Like, so for people listening right now, my kid is not. He's at my wife's brother's house because we had to go to like Michigan for a funeral and there was people there, and yes, we all wore masks, but we were self-quarantining for 2 weeks just to be safe. So up until yesterday when this is recording, I hadn't seen my kid in 10 days. So he's always been a big talker, like not to like toot my own kid's horn, because I hate when parents do that, like, oh, my kid's the smartest, my kid's the best. Like, I hate when people do that, because there's a difference between, in my opinion, like encouragement and then just like throwing your kid at people. Mm-hmm. So like I try not to, like, to him I do, of course, to build up his confidence and stuff. But like when I'm talking to other people and they're like, oh, your kid's so smart, I'm like, all right, yeah, I guess. Thank you. I don't like try to like go out and say stuff, but I will admit his vocabulary is really good, and it probably just becomes to no surprise that his dad is a huge talker. Not just from the podcast, but in general. I talk a lot. And so I hadn't seen him in 10 days, and he's like telling me all these stories about things he's been doing and, making up stories, like when we're running around, like we're running away from Thanos, and he's Black Panther, and we're running around and stuff. And I don't think like there's no way I was this smart when I was 2. I'm pretty sure I was super dumb. And so it's weird. You have moments like that too, where you spend inadvertently time away from them, and then you see them again, and it's like, like Jesus, like I'm doing something right, obviously, if you can articulate this well. But at the same time, like, you always wonder like what you're doing. You second guess everything all the time, sometimes too much. But I don't know if that's a fear, but I guess it's more of a concern that you kind of deal with every day with kids, because you're just, when they're younger, I guess, at least, because you just don't know, because you're like, is this thing I'm doing gonna, like, in 2 years be a negative?
How does he do with the Santa and Easter Bunny? Because I will say I did okay with Santa. There were times there's hit and miss. Like, I have some pictures of me in a happy face, some pictures of me sobbing.
So he was born in September, so first Christmas and first Easter were like non-existent things for him, because he had no clue what was going on in the world. And then after that, Easter's become a thing. So now, like, I guess this year, we hid eggs around their house. But kids are also very dumb. He picked up all the eggs because we live in like a smaller place. There wasn't a lot of places to hide them. So he found all the eggs fairly like within like 10, 15 minutes, because they weren't in a large area. And then like they were all gone. We were like, all right, buddy, that's it. Let's go inside. And he's like, no, there's more. And we're like, there's not. We're all done. We should go inside. No, like, no, there's more. I'm gonna look for more. Okay. So I would like literally, my wife would distract him, and I would reach into his bucket, grab like 5 eggs, and I'd have to sprint to the other yard and throw eggs on the ground and be like, all right, let's go check the other yard again. And then he'd find eggs and be like, see, I told you there was more. You're like, all right, we were just here 5 minutes ago and there wasn't, but okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Santa's been pretty good on that point. He knows who he is, and that he gives him presents, so we can use that against him. But last year, this year he got, this year. Well, I guess it is technically last year in 2019, but he got so overwhelmed because he opened like 2 toys, and he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna play with these now." And we're like, "Yeah, there's like 30 more things," and he's like, no, there's not. For you, there is. For you, there is. For me, I'm gonna play with these 2, and I'm good.
So for Easter, he can't have enough Easter eggs. Christmas presents, 2, please. We're done.
Yeah, Christmas, just give me a toy, and I don't care if there's another toy. I just want to play with this one.
You could have like almost like a 30-day Christmas, just 1 present per day, and just keep him satisfied.
I should just switch to Hanukkah, because I'm half Jewish, so he's a quarter Jewish. I just need to switch to Hanukkah. I'm like, here's 8 days of stuff.
Here you go, just 8 days of 1 present each.
Yeah.
That's amazing that he just totally, 2's enough. That's fine.
He's like, whatever. He's like, we'll like, want to play with this one? He's like, nah, I like this one. And then like, I'll play with it later, but that morning you're just, Jesus, I just like, so I mean, now he's getting older, so now it's to the point where like Christmas now is going to be like the gifts of like the stuff that I have to put together at like 2 a.m. and cut the night before, and we're getting to that point where like now, which I don't understand, why do kids' things have to be built with so many different screws? I've built things before, and I'm just like, why does this thing have like 30 washers and like 9 different screw sizes?
And as an adult, you get stuff that just clips together in 3 pieces.
Yeah, this microphone was like $100, and it's literally was 3 things. It was a microphone, a mic stand, and a cord to plug into my computer. Like, end of story. That's it.
And they managed to break it in 10 seconds of use. It's like, what testing department do you guys have that built this dollhouse?
Yeah, we bought them like from the Disney store, so you would think higher quality, at least in comparison to other things. And it was like a Marvel Avengers set, like bigger one. Well, not 3 to 5 inches, I guess. And like figures, they had parts, and you could exchange like to take their heads off and like put different heads on, that kind of thing. Within an hour of it arriving, he had ripped Black Widow's bottom half off because she wasn't turning, so her waist didn't turn, and he didn't get it, so he just ripped it off. And then within a day, Hawkeye was also missing an arm and both his legs because they weren't moving the right direction. So he was just, and then there you go, toy's broken. It was like $80 for the set of like 6, and 2 were broken within a day.
It's like dogs too, because dogs do that too with their chew toys. It's like you give them a chew toy and you like turn around, it's like completely mangled. It's like, what did you?
Yeah, we don't have a dog yet, but we haven't yet. But when like in a week we're getting him a cat, because he said he wanted a cat over a dog. So now I'm gonna have a cat.
Well, that's it. Those are adventures. I'm allergic to cats, so I don't have that many. My mom's also allergic to cats, but somehow they got 2 because my stepdad, I guess, wants animals that he can care for, and that's...
Oh yeah, my wife's had a few. My wife's Hmong, which is like a Asian subsect from Thailand.
Mm-hmm.
And so growing up, they had pigeons as pets and chickens, but pigeons and like, I mean, I'm a huge dog guy. Like, not that I don't mind cats. Like, my mom's allergic to cats too, and so is my sister. I just kind of got lucky in not being really allergic to anything. But yeah, he was like, I asked him like 5 times to try to like sway. I'm like, you sure you don't want like a dog? You really want a cat? And then it was every time it was like, yeah, no, cat. All right. Well, I guess we're getting a cat next week, and there we are.
That's cool. I still make it a dog and just get really pointy ears on him and say, look, it's a cat.
Like, it's totally a cat. I swear it's a cat. Cats bark. I promise, son. Cats bark.
It's a Benju or a Bijou.
Yeah.
It's a cat name. So where can people find you on social media, Mark?
Yeah, so I have kept it, hopefully, simple enough. Facebook and Twitter is just at Fandom Effect. Should pop up right away. Pretty responsive on both. And then pretty much every podcasting platform. So, Apple, Spotify, Pandora, iHeart. Pretty much if it exists, I'm on there. I'm pretty sure I've made sure to be on everywhere. So just whatever you use, you can probably find me. There's a YouTube channel as well. If listening to YouTube through podcasts is more your thing, you can find every episode on YouTube as well. But those are about on a 2-week delay to... obviously just because people who listen live get preference treatment. And then you'll be able to hear me every Sunday from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time on Redline Radio LLC is the Facebook page. So you can go to there and listen to stuff, and you'll see me both live and also hear some past episodes. Or you can just download their app, but you can find out that information on the website.
Thank you so much for doing this, Mark. It's been a great time. I enjoyed listening to you, and you got an awesome kid that's gonna probably, be an Iron Man fan or Gambit if he's anything like his old man.
I'm gonna push that one hard when he's just getting older. But no, I appreciate you having me on. It's always a pleasure, and I like the what your viewpoint on like what you're doing is different, and I like it. It's not the standard kind of thing, so I like it.
Thank you. I didn't want to either one fix it or like be a therapist in any way. Even though I'm not for or against therapy in any way. I wanted to just talk about it, and just as a comic, that's what I've done on stage. Is I'm afraid of certain things, and I'll talk about it on stage in an honest way, and sometimes it gets a laugh, sometimes doesn't get a laugh. It just gets, you poor thing, So I've just it's kind of helped me make peace with it, kind of like say, that's part of me. Yeah, I'm afraid of karaoke. That's one of my fears is singing in public, even though I do stand up.
I've done that drunk, but yeah, that's the only time that's happened.
Well, thanks again, Mark. I look forward to the Fandom Effect on Redline LLC.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It was a good time.
So that was Mark Jacob Halberg. What a fascinating interview. I really enjoy his podcast, The Fandom Effect, where he talks to all kinds of nerd cultures, and his philosophy of don't let people take what you find nerdy away from you. Don't let society tell you what you should be a fan of. I really like that message. It's really cool that he shares his love of anime and comic books with his son, and that they plan to go to cosplay and conventions together as a family. I really think that's a really neat idea. I also find it really interesting how do you separate being a parent from the life you enjoy? Like, if you do enjoy doing high-risk behaviors, and it could happen to anybody, skiing, snowboarding, skateboarding, mountain biking. People have active lifestyles. How do you balance that risk of injury along with being a parent for your child? What happens if they want to get into those high-risk activities? Does that also get into your brain at some point in time? Make sure you check out Mark Jacob Halberg's podcast, The Fandom Effect, on all platforms. The website links will be in the show notes. Also, if you like what you listen to here, go ahead and leave a 5-star review on Apple or whatever you listen to podcasts. Tell a friend. And now some credits and thank yous for the people that make this show possible. Thanks to Barry Whitewater, who does my graphics and design for my comedy as well as my podcast. You can follow him on Instagram at bwhiteh2o. Get it, Whitewater. Also, a big thank you to Gunnar Olsen for my music. You can follow him on Instagram at gunbuns. That's GUNBUNS. You can also check out his website at gunnarolsen.net. And you can check out his awesome EPs and some music he's got coming out. Real excited for him. If you want to follow me on social media, I am at Ryan Perio on all social media. It's RyanPerrio. If you want to follow the show, I highly recommend it. Instagram and Twitter is at Some Fear Fans. Facebook group is Some of All Fears. If you have questions for the show or feedback, email me at somefearfans@gmail.com. If you want to be a guest on the show, also email me at somefearfans@gmail.com. We can make that happen. Please keep leaving reviews on Apple Podcast or whatever podcast platform you listen to. I just appreciate seeing that people like what I'm putting out. So if you like what you hear, go ahead and leave a review. I appreciate all of you for listening. And next week, we'll have another guest with another fear. Thanks for listening to the Sum of All Fears.